Now let's take a little bit of a deeper look at how we work with materials in ZBrush. So right now you can see we have a basic material on our tool. If I change our material, you can see that that updates on the tool. So basically we don't have a material assigned to this subtool. We just are able to preview that material, whatever material we happen to have selected. You can see I can go into the material bin. There's a big section of standard materials at the bottom, and then we have some matcap materials and then a quick pick row up at the top. And the thing to keep in mind is that our materials are assigned based on the material slot that we have here. So we can go in and modify all of these different materials. And if we were, for instance, to assign this basic material here, then we come back in and we have a different material in that same slot. The object is going to look at that slot instead of trying to find that material by name somewhere else. So keep that in mind. So to assign materials, to actually assign it to the object, we can go to color and we can fill the object. And now when we change our material, you can see it doesn't update, stays with that material that we originally assigned. We can also use the Z plugin Subtool Master Fill. And if we uncheck everything, we can actually unassign our materials. But then we can go in and say, okay, in that same fill, I can assign color material. And now, same thing, it's got that material that's assigned. Let's go ahead and assign our basic material again. So basic material 1, let's go to fill, and let's assign it. Now we can also modify our materials. So we open up the dock on the left, you can see our material palette's already there, but if it's not, we can go ahead and just select it here from the menu, drop it over to the side, and we can go into modifiers. And the modifiers, you can see there's a ton of different modifiers that we can change how our material looks. So if you've used another application, you've used maybe the Hypershade in Maya, it's the same sort of thing. We can go in and change this particular material, whatever we have selected. So we can increase the ambience, give it a little bit more of a kind of a self-illuminating kind of a look. We can change the diffuse here with the slider, but we also have a curve underneath that we can use to change how that diffuse behaves. Okay, so we can create some interesting effects, or we can come in and reverse it. So you can see I can just click on the curve, or I can move these points just like that. If I wanted to kind of reverse it, we could get like a sort of an electron microscope kind of a look. If I just drag the point off, you can see, so just reversing that angle, now we get more diffuse around the edges. We can reset that curve there. We also have the ability to change the specularity, so we make it shinier, and then make it glossier by changing the specular curve, so tightening up that specular highlight or broadening it out. And those work in conjunction. There's lots of different things that we can change here. Some of these things won't be apparent until we render, but a lot of these things will allow us to change things that we can see here on our canvas. And that's based on, again, whatever material that you have selected. They're going to have different attributes that you can change. Now, another cool thing that we can do is we can actually paint material, which we kind of looked at. But so let's say that we've got this basic material, and then I want to paint something that is, reflective red. So I'm going to choose either M or MRGB. So that just means material or material and color. Turn off Z add. And then I'm just going to paint in here. And you can see that I'm actually painting a different kind of surface. So wherever I paint is getting that really reflective red. So think about a face if you're painting lips, or you're painting something that should look like a different kind of material. Now you see this jagged edge. So again, this is based on the polygon resolution. So sometimes, most of the time, you're going to get not a completely firm or straight edge like that, but we can go in here and we can paint different kinds of materials. We can paint them right up next to each other, and you'll get kind of different surface effects based on the material that you paint. Let's grab this, the matte cap. The matte caps are really good at getting different kinds of real-world surfaces. Here's kind of a metallic look. And so we can paint those materials, but you can see that the edges where those materials or those different kinds of surfaces meet don't look all that good. So what we can do, and we'll talk about this more as we get into rendering later, but I just want to kind of touch on it. In ZBrush, you know, as you've seen in the past few lessons and going forward as well, it's kind of difficult to talk about one thing without kind of dipping your toe into something else. And so we're kind of jumping around a little bit and pulling information from different areas of ZBrush as we go through this, but I've tried to structure it in a way so that we can kind of focus on one particular area and then move on. So by the end, you'll have, I think, some good repetition on some of these areas and just be more comfortable working in ZBrush. So anyway, I do want to make this line a little bit softer, right? And when we go in and render it, and it's going to be this BPR button to do a render, if we hit that, you can see nothing really changes. The edges don't change. But what we can do is go into render properties, and right here under materials blend radius, if we increase this radius a little bit and do a render, we'll see a difference on those edges. So there you can see in here, that's the same, but the edges have been sort of softened out. And if we were to go in and really increase that, you'd see a different blend amount between those different materials. Now it's rare you're going to have, you know, all those different kinds of materials on there, but if you do have several, you can blend them together if you use that setting in the render settings. So you can see there's a really broad blend, right? So you would probably want to use, in most cases, you want to use something that's fairly low, and that'll kind of help to soften that up a little bit. Okay. And now that material is actually assigned to those polygons, just like a poly paint. And so if you wanted to go back in and assign a particular material to this, then you could go back in and say, you know what, I'll go back in here, fill, and we'll fill it with our material. And we've got this matte cap metal. We'll just fill it there. So that's how we can start to work with materials a little bit more in depth. There's lots of materials that you can come in here and play with. The matte caps are really cool. They give you some really cool effects very quickly based on real world surfaces and some kind of made up surfaces that are really cool anyway. So the next thing we'll talk about is how to use textures in ZBrush. So there's kind of 3 different spots that I want to talk to you about regarding textures, and so we'll do that next.